welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. Today I am live down here in Branson, Missouri. And as always, this show is brought to you by Operation Encore. They are a 501c nonprofit. You can go over to operationencore.org and hit their little donate button, give them help. You know, everybody needs that help making veterans rock stars. So today, I have got a special guest, and I have been waiting for this interview for a hot minute. We have got Rick. Rick is a second-degree black belt that studied under the Gracies. Rick has his strength certified gym in Branson, Missouri, and has been training for 3 decades. Rick recently started online training, is ready and available to help you get focused, you in a better mindset, better nutrition, get you in shape, and help you with personal growth. Let's bring on Rick. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Don. Doing great. Thanks first and foremost for having me and giving me a little bit about your history. So again, man, nothing but respect, brother. Nothing but respect, man. Yeah.
I appreciate that. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where you grew up and how you came all the way from up north down to here.
Man, just grab the popcorn, man, because it's going to be a shit show. I mean, I got 55 years worth of material, man. So, you know, people say, man, how could you do all that in your lifetime? I'm like, well, I'm fucking 55 years old, man. Like,
yep.
There's a lot of shit you can accomplish. But, yeah, it started out, man, in Philadelphia, PA. And on a city block to the age of 9. And then at the age of 9, my family moved us into one of the worst cities in the United States, Camden, New Jersey, which back in the 70s wasn't too bad. And I heard it's cleaning up now. It's been over a decade since I've been there. But then we moved into a town called Pensacola, New Jersey, where I basically was raised and then kind of bounced around the tri-state area for a couple decades and wound up here in Branson, Missouri. Been out here 14 years, man. 14 years. I love it. They call me a damn Yankee. I said, well, what's the difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee? They said, well, a Yankee will come here and go home. A damn Yankee will come here and stay. So I guess I'm a damn Yankee.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Florida is full of them Yankees then.
Oh, yeah.
They only down there for the winter time.
Yep.
So you in your bio, man, you've got so many things that I want to cover.
Okay.
Let's start out with you growing up. I know your dad was also an entrepreneur.
Correct.
He was in the pizza business, right?
Correct.
So how did martial arts and that all combine? Because you've been doing martial arts since you were like 6, right?
51 years, man.
Yeah.
51 years. Actually, June 27th, 1972 was my very first class because you had to be 4 years of age.
Okay.
So right at the age of 4, my folks had me right in there, man. They said, kid, you got some anger issues and we don't know how to handle it. I mean, back then they didn't have pills and diagnosis and this, that. It was, you dealt with it.
Yeah.
And my folks said, well, we got to keep them active. And at that time you had to be 4 years of age to start martial arts, which again, so they could handle my anger issues, give me structure, discipline. They enrolled me in Taekwondo.
Okay.
So I started out as a traditional martial artist. I made my way through the ranks. And back then, it wasn't, I consider it watered down. It is. It's a lot different. I mean, I remember getting cracked in the face numerous times by my sensei, and he broke my nose twice. And it was a way of life. You were allowed to do it. If you were messing up, you had to pay the consequences, and you learn real quick, which, a lot of that has just gone away because people are so happy and this happy and that happy. And, I feel as though without that baseline right there, that foundation, I'd probably still be in prison or I'd be dead.
Yeah. I think that's, even in today's world, I think exactly what you just said is living proof of that. Because look at the kids nowadays.
Yeah.
They don't have that because the parents are afraid if I touch them, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
And then the consequences are when they grow up, they go to jail.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword. And I was the same way. My parents were, my mom used to always buy me, remember those little paddles with the rubber ball?
Oh, yeah.
Because she knew that rubber ball was coming off. And after that, it became my ass.
Right. That became your paddle board.
Yep.
It's funny you say that. I had a family, and there was 5 boys. And on the steps going down into their basement, there were 5 paddle boards. And you could tell that Eddie was the one that got his ass cracked the most, because that paddle board was just deteriorated, man. So you just gauge the discipline on the paddle boards, man. But I get what you mean with that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't do it these days. I mean, God forbid your kid winds up doing something stupid or, disrespectful, and you smack him on the butt, man. Your typhus is coming to your door and taking your kid.
Yeah. And if you do it like at a store, nobody's going to come to stop it, but everybody's going to videotape it, and then they're going to come and arrest you.
Yep.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's sad.
So as you were growing up, did you also work in the restaurants with your dad?
Well, funny that you say that, because yes, I did. However, that was a form of punishment.
Okay.
For me. Anytime I would screw up, if the law had to get involved or this, that, or the other thing, I would have to go to the pizzeria and work. So when I was in my early 20s, my father said to me, kid, this is going to be yours. I wanted nothing to do with it. I'm like, man, I'm
not going to be punished.
We talk about PTSD, man. Mine was at the pizzeria. I can't even walk into a Domino's right now, man. I like to go. Where's the drive-through window at? You know what I mean? But all joking aside, I look back at it and I have a lot of fond memories of it. I really do. But yeah, like I said, the pizzeria industry for me was definitely a form of punishment.
I get that. I do get that. So martial arts stayed, and you I guess at some point you left the house. How did the whole syndicate with the mob come, and you started going down the road? Was this after you left the house? Because it seems like your parents were pretty strict as far as punishment. How did that tie in?
Dad was always working. You know what I mean? Back then, you owned a restaurant. You were there 7 days a week. I mean, really, Sundays we would sit down and have meals. And my father was a great man. I mean, he was an orphan, Flatbush, New York, in the 30s. Mm-hmm. And then at the age of 16, when they gave him $50 and said, have a good life, he went into the military. I told you he was a Korean vet, was in the Army. First, he was in infantry. When he got out, then he started with a hot dog cart in New York. Okay. And just built his way up to restaurants in Philadelphia and then into New Jersey. But with ourselves, like I said, growing up in the pizzeria industry, I had a lot of uncles that weren't really blood related, but Uncle Vito, Uncle Tony,
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So even though my father wasn't connected, we were connected.
Okay.
I mean, you had to deal with the organization. That's who you bought your products off of, your flour, and whatever the case was. And like I said, my father was a great man. But with my situation of my age, I started in Taekwondo. I got into boxing. Actually, boxed at Joe Frazier's gym, Northeast Philadelphia. Got into Muay Thai and got into MMA. So at a young age, I was tough. You know what I mean? I fought a lot. I mean, it was an everyday event for me. As a kid, I went into the juvenile detention center, and it was called Jonesboro. And back then, it was gladiator school. Like, you were getting jumped, you were fighting every day. So, like I said, I mean, people say violence doesn't cure anything, but to me, it cures a lot. It really does. And in terms of keeping people at least quiet, you know what I mean, getting them out of your way.
Yeah.
So, like I said, my involvement started out in the pizzerias, but since I was so good with my hands and things of that nature, I got into the club industry, got into security. Okay. So at that point in time, at a young age, I was working in nightclubs, and back in South Jersey, South Philly, that's all run by the mob. Okay. You know what I mean? So you learn a valuable lesson: who you touch, who you don't touch, and I remember putting my hands on one guy before, and I didn't realize how high of rank he was. And this was in a place called Memories. The guy, Jerry Blavitt, they called him the Geeter with the Heater. He had a radio show in South Philly. He had a nightclub in Margate, New Jersey called Memories.
Okay.
And there was this guy giving him a bunch of crap. And again, Jerry had connections, even though he wasn't connected. I looked up to him. Mm-hmm. Not realizing the guy that's mouthing off to him was a connected man. And I beat the fucking brakes off of this guy. He had a white shirt on, and by the time I had his ass outside, it was red. You know what I mean? And Jerry looked at me and he was like, "What the fuck did you just do, Rick?" I said, "I did what you pay me for." He goes, "Not to him." He goes, "What am I going to do?" I said, "Well, you better figure out something, bud." He goes, "Because he's waiting outside for me, man." And long story short, I got out of that one, man. You know what I mean? Now this is coming out. Who knows? He might come in. Funny thing about it is I got a good friend of mine. We reunited from South Philly here decades later. And this individual was connected. Mm-hmm. And when we wound up talking to each other on the phone, we figured out who we were. It was from a mutual friend. And I was like, "Don't you remember?" And I'm going to leave his name out of it. And he goes, "Oh, my God." He goes, "You're not here for me, are you?" And I said, "No." I said, "But let me ask you a question." I said, "Are you in the witness protection program?" He goes, "No," but he goes, "It might as well, because living in Branson's a slow death as long as I stay here." We have a joke about that. But yeah, man, like I said, that was a way of life. I can look back at it now and think, man, wow, it's crazy that I'm still alive or not, still in prison.
Yeah.
But again, when you grow up in that type of lifestyle, you don't know any other way. You think you're growing up in a normal childhood or an adulthood situation where you're like, no, there's my buddies on A&E right there, and there's footages of this, that, and the whole 9 yards. And
yeah.
So yeah, man, fond memories. Yeah, thank God I can say good memories.
Yeah. Man, that would be an awkward question too. When he comes down and says, "You ain't by chance in the witness protection program, are you?"
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, "Well, where did that question come from?"
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, like I said, there's some history behind it. He wound up sleeping with the owner's girlfriend. Okay. And the owner was connected. And basically, he told me and my right-hand man at the time, Jack, he said, "Listen, I don't care what it takes, but this individual needs to disappear." He goes, "And I'm giving you a week." So we got this individual and we said, "Listen, here's the deal. You know what I mean? Direct orders are already set. You know what I mean? We're not saying it's going to be us, but it's going to happen. So we're giving you fair warning right now. Get out. Get out of Dodge and go."
Yeah.
Well, he got out of Dodge and he went. And that was the last time I ever heard or saw from him until I came here to Branson. And then, like I said, we reunited, and that's when he said, "You're not here looking for me, are you?" and I would love to get him on your show because he's, things have changed a lot. Yeah. It has over the decades, man. You got like, Sammy the Bull coming out. You got Vinny, I forget the other guy's name that, he's more of a preacher now. They're openly discussing their story. Not to say that there's never going to be any consequences. There might, but things have changed over the decades, man. It's not like the old, Gambino days or Gotti days or anything like that. And like I said, I'm not discrediting it whatsoever. I think they just became a little smarter. Not as reckless.
And I think also TV gives people an image that isn't necessarily accurate,
Now, I will say this. There is a lot of truth to it, too. Like, you sit back and watch Goodfellas and things of that nature. It's pretty accurate. It's like they got this movie out called Shot Caller. Where a guy was an executive, CEO of a company, just suit and tie guy with his buddies to get into a car accident. Well, his buddy dies and he's drunk. So, he was driving under the influence and somebody dies. So he has to do a prison term. Well, he's looking at 1.5 years. Well, he turns it into a lifelong bid because of the orders that he had to enforce.
Yeah.
Because it's that way. You either do what it's told or it's going to get done to you. And so, like I said, that's a pretty, if you haven't seen that movie, it's a pretty good movie. It's called Shot Caller. It's pretty accurate because, again, like I said, like Sons of Anarchy, you watch that, man. I just laugh my ass off about it. I mean, it's just, everybody thinks, that's what a 1% motorcycle club is. And it's, is there truth to some things? Absolutely. But the majority of it, it's movie time.
Yep.
They have to make it interesting.
Absolutely.
And showboat it, man.
And if anybody, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that actual club a veteran club? The real Sons of Anarchy? I think that's where they got the name from.
They could.
I think I've seen an article about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the history with them at all.
Yeah, I think it's just a veterans motorcycle club.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, it's like I said, I watched it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It was entertaining.
Yep.
It was entertaining. It was a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you ended up. You were in the security for the clubs. Is that when you was also doing personal security too?
Yep.
Or did you get in trouble before that?
No. This is all kind of like during.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like prior to me going to prison, everything was kind of done. You know what I mean? I kind of got out of the security with nightclubs, the security. Like I said, we did something for Mike Tyson. I believe it was in 1987. It was June 27th, and I remember that because it's my birthday. But it was 87 or 88 when he fought Michael Spinks. Okay. And our job was just to make sure that he didn't go out and kill anybody. You know what I mean? Because Mike had a bad temper. Yeah. It really was. I mean, you could just see it, man. The guy was very violent, and they just wanted to make sure that he didn't hurt anybody. It wasn't that he needed protection. Right. We were protecting everybody else from him. At that time, Will Smith was with, it was Jazzy Jeff, and I even forget what it was. It was before Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but it was Jazzy Jeff and Will Smith. I forget the name of the whole deal right there. But, they're up-and-coming rappers. Mm-hmm. So we did things with them, Boys to Men, working in the nightclub industry. If anybody ever watched wrestling, Paul White, which was the Big Show, mm-hmm. he worked for me for about a year. So, being in that area itself, you bumped into all types of people, right. And I would say one of our worst security gigs we had was Dennis Rodman. Really? Oh, man. You talk about a nightmare. I mean, this guy, I could see this actually. He's just a nightmare. I mean, he would hide from us. He would escape the clubs. And I'm like, we're here for you. You cannot play hide and seek with us, man. And he was off the wall, man. And we had an opportunity of doing another gig for him, and we declined it. It was just too much, man. I'm not taking this. We're not taking it anymore. Risk over reward, man. Yeah. Not enough. Yeah. Not enough, man. Yeah. It is weird too, talking about that guy, that the life that he led, and he ends up in North Korea talking to, the dictator of Korea. Right. How does that happen? How does that mix? Where's the commonality, man? You're right. I forgot all about that. That is so weird. That's a trip. Well, like I said, great guy. Don't get me wrong, man. But hey, man, they get on some shit, man, and they kind of lose their mind a little bit, man. Like I said, it was just, we're there for a reason. We're not there for the season, and it's to make sure he's okay. And he's eluding us, going to other places and hiding from us. And I'm like, you know what? It's just not worth it. It's not, But. Yeah, and like you said, you're there because there's a lot less press if you dealt with a guy than if Tyson dealt with a guy. Oh, for sure. The lawsuits are going to be completely different. Oh, yeah. The press is going to be reacting to it completely different. Absolutely. And so if he escaped you and then he got into an altercation, or there was a situation between him and a girl or something, and now your company and yourself is on the line for this. Yeah, that's why you got to be licensed and bonded. Yeah. You know what I mean? Bottom line, because it does happen. Oh, you know what I mean? It does happen. And so like I said, you got to just pick and choose your battles. Yeah. Bottom line. Yeah, not all money's good money. Correct. I learned that the hard way more than one time. I did too. So you also trained with the Gracies as well, right? The Gracies, yeah. And it's funny because of being in the martial arts off and on for 51 years. And again, like I said, there was times that I was off for months, years. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu probably back in 1988, 89, before it was even mainstream and known. Now, Royce won the very first UFC in 1993.
Right.
So previous to that, a lot of the guys from Brazil were coming here to the United States. They were either in California or they were in the Northeast. Reason being is Donald Trump was allowing them to fight at the casinos.
Makes
So
sense.
you had a lot of them until wintertime came. Okay, now they love the ocean in the summer because you have all the beaches, but wintertime comes, they couldn't stand the snow. So like one of the very first snows that we had, I'll never forget, we slipped on some ice, man. He fell down. It was Hoist or Hoyler. I'm saying all the names with an H's, but they start with an R. That's one thing you'll notice about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm going to California. So a lot of them migrated to California just because there was a bigger population there. There was more growth for them, more money. A few stuck behind. I started training under Renzo. And Renzo was kind of a mixture of Elio Gracie's side and Carlos's side. So when people say they've trained with the Gracies, they don't realize, or I'll get the one that says, yo, well, I trained with the Gracies. And I'm like, well, which one? Well, the Gracie. I'm like, there's thousands, man.
Yeah.
There's thousands. You got to understand, Carlos Gracie had 23 children.
Wow.
Elio had 9. So the combination of those two brothers itself, their offspring and cousins, I mean, there's thousands of them now.
Yeah.
And they all capitalized on the name.
Of course.
I mean, the Gracie name is the Gracie name. And, there's a big story on the Machado brothers that was actually Joe Rogan. We were talking about Joe. Joe's under John Machado or Higa Machado. I think it's Higa Machado, one of them, but they're under Eddie Bravo as well, which is 10th Planet.
Mm-hmm.
And they were using the Gracie last name. Well, it got to the point where I believe it was Horian, who's the oldest out of Elio's kids, turned around and said, you got to stop using our last name. And they were like, well, it's our mom's last name. They're like, yeah, but it's not your father's last name, so you have to stop. So,
hey, have you ever wanted to be a part of this show? You now have the opportunity to be a part of the Two Drunk Dudes in a Gunroom show. We have worked with a nonprofit that is starting called Heroes Voices Media Foundation. We are trying to help this foundation get built. You can be a part of it by sponsoring our show. Go to twodrunkdudesinAgunroom.com, sponsor the show, and you will be a part of an amazing organization that will be helping veterans. Thank you. Now let's get back to the show.
So when it comes down to family wars, I mean that's a big family. Yeah. So there's a lot of disputes. And again, it's not my place to speak on any of it, but at the same point in time, I mean there's thousands of Gracies out there, man, and they're all badass. They're all badass.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're all badass, man. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you was doing this training, was all this was this also post prison or was this before prison as well?
Both.
So let's get into what caused you to end up going to prison?
Just got involved with things that we shouldn't have. Ultimately the charge was possession with the intent to, possession of a controlled dangerous substance with the intent to sell.
Okay.
So that's what it came down to. The ironic thing about that is, again, whomever, FBI, DEA, whatever, trying to figure it all out. Obviously, they were thinking it was a bigger deal than what it was. Okay, because when they came in, I mean, it was like a whole platoon coming out there. Right. I mean, it was hands down, blah, 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 blah. And so ultimately, when my father had the pizzeria, I had the apartment upstairs. And when they came in, I guess they figured they were going to find the mother load. Well, they didn't.
Right.
Okay. However, they had enough on wiretap on my father to convict him.
Okay.
They had nothing on me but they knew I was a part. They were following me for weeks prior.
Right.
So they're watching, and I was young, dumb, full of cum. I mean, you know, just showboating. I had the money, you know, we're out there buying the bottles of champagne and just, I'm having a blast. So, I mean, they had a hard on for me. Right. They didn't have enough evidence on me, you know? So when it came down to it, because it all comes down to money and what you're going to give and this and that, they turned around and they said, listen, if Junior will plead guilty to the same charges as his father, we will cut Senior a break. And my father said, absolutely not. We ain't cooperating with you motherfuckers whatsoever. And that's including that right there. And I said, here's the deal, Pops. I said, I'm a grown-ass man. I said, you're looking at the RICO. They're going to get you 20 to life. And I said, and you got a grandson. I want you out to see your grandson. Yeah. So that's a choice I get to make. And I agreed. And he was pissed. He didn't talk to me for 9 months. And we were the only father and son team in the state of New Jersey at that time to go through the system. And that was maximum security. This wasn't Fed time. Right. This was hardcore state penitentiary time. We're talking about, you know, Trenton State, Rahway. We wound up in Leesburg, but, you know, there was a whole transit time before we got to one destination to the next because it was overpopulated. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, for the longest time, he didn't talk to me. And then he finally gave in, you know, and started talking to me. So ultimately, I did 5 years. He did 7. He was able to get out, see his grandkids, and he passed away at the age of 75. But he was totally comfortable with doing the rest of his life in prison. He said, kid, it's like a full circle for me. You know, I was born and raised in an orphanage in Flatbush, New York. Went in the military. He goes, I'm going back to the orphanage again. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, life was simple for him, man. Right. You know what I mean? Funny thing is, he wound up running the ODR out there, which is the officer's dining room, because of all his expertise in the restaurant industry. Mm-hmm. So they set him up where he was doing the books, doing the ordering, and all the fat ass CEOs were just sitting back smoking the cigarettes. It's kind of like that movie, what is it, Shawshank Redemption? Yes, very similar. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, my old man was running the shit over there, man. It was funny because we wound up out to one of the minimum securities after you build up status, where we went out onto the farm, and it's a farm. So you're shoveling shit, you're feeding the pigs, you're just doing dumbass shit, or highway patrol where you're out there cleaning up the highways, and you've seen the buses out there. Yeah. And I caught a charge. As soon as I went over, I caught a charge. So they put me behind the wall again to maximum security for about 1.5 years. So I built my status up, good status, stayed out of trouble. And when I went back, got off the bus, and right when you get off the bus, they put you right into the barracks. Mm-hmm. So you got about 50 bunks on one side, 50 on the other, and the same on the other side. Well, that's where you start. Then they put you into a 6-man room, a 4-man room, a 2-man room, and then you get your 6x8. You're single, okay? Immediately as I get off, man, I'm ready to go into the barracks, man, and they're putting me in a single room, and I got a TV, refrigerator, a fan, and I'm like, you guys got the right guy? They're like, we'll explain it to you later. Go back to the ODR, and Pop's just running the shit, man. And, and you know, I'd say for the majority of the, you know, the correctional officers over in Leesburg, it was in Cape May County, they were just nothing but, like, you know, hillbilly rednecks, man, and they were just looking to do their time, man, their hours, man. They weren't looking to really break your balls too bad. Right. I mean, you're going to have the few out there that are going to be ball breakers. But for the majority of them, man, they were cool. It was just a job. That was it. And, you know, a lot of people say, you know, how was it doing time? Well, I tell people, I did my time. I didn't let my time do me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I made the best out of it. I trained, stayed away from drugs, stayed away from gambling, stayed away from things that get people fucking killed. Yeah. And that's what happens. You know what I mean? Like, usually a hit's not going to get put out on you unless you owe somebody else another race money, and that's through gambling or drugs. Because, I mean, there's more drugs inside the penitentiary than there is out on the street. There's more money for it. There's more money for it, and again, it's just, it's the way it is. I mean, it's prison. And as long as you do the right thing, man, usually nothing wrong's going to happen to you. Just don't go in there as a child molester or somebody that abuses women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to be all right. Now, if you're either or and they don't put you in protective custody, you're probably going to get chopped up.
You're getting what you deserve.
That's it.
That's the way I look at it.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, man.
You know, I tell people, and the reason why I was kind of asking this is because, you know, sitting here, we kind of know where the end of the story has led us. We're looking out at this amazing area.
Yeah.
And I tell people, because they always ask me, you know, how is it that some soldiers can deal with the trauma this way and others deal with it that way? And I tell people, you know, you can't compare one to the other because you don't know their upbringing.
Right.
You know, you got some families that kid, the worst thing that happened to him was he got a B in school, and that was traumatic.
Right.
And then he goes in the military and he seen some guy fall down and bump his head and a little bit of blood came out. Now he's got PTSD. You know, You got another kid that grew up in and out of foster care, being shot at from on the streets. And it's going to take a little bit more to be traumatic. You know, what that guy just seen, he laughs about. And so
example.
You cannot compare one. And that's why you'll never hear me say, you know, well, you know, I'm this far. How come you're not that far? It's not my trauma. It's your trauma. It may be from the same events. It may not be, but the cure and the way you get there and how you deal with them is going to be completely different. And so I think kind of your upbringing and the areas that you came from kind of helped you deal with that new way you were put in. Because I know somebody that didn't have that kind of upbringing is going to be in shock just from day one of being in there.
Yeah, like I hate to say it, and I said this on a previous podcast, I was groomed for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and again, I'm not taking it away and I'm not trying to glorify it, but you know, it is what it was. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Exactly.
It sucked to be away from your loved ones. You know what I mean? It sucked that you didn't have certain luxuries in life. But, you know, I tell people all the time, if you want more out of life, take some shit away and then you'll just enjoy it more. You know, get into solitude, get to know yourself a little bit before you try to get to know other people. You know, I think solitude is great. And people are like, well, you're in prison. Well, I was around a lot of people.
Right.
You know, a lot of times I had a cellie. You know what I mean? If you're in segregation housing unit, you're still around. You know, you're listening to, you know, the shot caller calling out the orders of the day or this one or that one. So you're around people. Now you get into the hole. That's a whole nother situation, which from my understanding, they outlawed it finally because they called it inhumane, which it is. I mean, I was in it, you know, and literally, you know, they threw you in the freaking hole, no window, no nothing, slipped the food through. And all you have is a horse blanket, which is like sandpaper, and your toilet paper is your pillow.
Holy crap.
You know what I mean? And you know, you really get to know yourself. I mean, there's no reading material. There's no nothing, you know. You get into AdSeg, which is administrative segregation, which now, you know, you get some books and things of that nature. But then you get the jerk-offs that rip out the last chapter on you or something like that, or the last few pages on you, man. True story. So I was a runner in one of the units. I shouldn't even be talking about this, but I don't give a fuck, okay? So one of the guys from Nieta, part of Latin Kings, all right? It's kind of like the lower level. And I don't want to discredit it, man, because they're badass motherfuckers. But they wanted me to pass off a porn book to one of their homies in there, man. Mm-hmm. So you know, I'm like, porn book, man. I'm like, man, I like this picture. Take out this picture. Take out that picture, man. I'm good. You know what I mean? And I get the call, man. Guy Babyface, man, and he was, you know, the head of Nieta. He was the shot caller, man. He goes, so Rick, man, what happened to page 96 and 105? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, the book I gave you. He goes, 96 and 105 was missing. Man, I said, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I got the book. I gave it off like you told me, man. I'm sweating bullets, man. I'm like, but then at the same point in time, I was the guy. I would pass out the phone. I was the one that had to feed them throughout the day. So you fed them lunch, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Give them the phone call, give them books. And these are guys that want to get into a fight or something inside or caught with drugs that now they're getting ready to get shipped out to another facility. Mm-hmm. So they're just in the jail cell. That's it. You know what I mean? And, you know, they're allowed out once to take the shower. And so my job was basically to kind of contend with them and mop the floors. And so you get certain privileges as you're a runner. But also, what came down to it is on the weekends when all the dope came in, no matter what race it was, I was the one who was passing the dope off.
Right.
Because if you don't do it, you get got.
Yeah.
That's it. You know what I mean? And where I was at, there wasn't really any type of strong white force at all. I mean, you hear about the Aryan Brotherhood, you hear about the Peckerwoods and things of that nature. There really wasn't in Leesburg at all. I mean, there was very minimal whites, and I meshed more with Nieta and the Latin Kings. Mm-hmm. There was just more family oriented. I knew how to speak Spanish because growing up in Camden, New Jersey, I grew up stayed in a Puerto Rican community, Fairview, for years. So I knew how to get by. And again, it was more of a family oriented group, mm-hmm. which again, I was used to growing up at, even though I'm not Italian, I grew up with Italians, right. In South Philly, and my father having a pizzeria. So it was funny because, our last name being Koenig is German. Okay. And, back in the 70s and 80s, man, and it would be like walking into a Chinese restaurant and having an Italian serve you, you know what I mean? Or you going into a pizzeria and there being a Chinese guy, you know what I mean? It was different back then. Yep. Unless you are that race and that food, you don't want it. And my father would always say, if anybody comes in here and ever questions your name, you tell them your name is Rick Pizza, because it said Rick's Pizza. And he said Pizza, Pizza. And I'll never forget him saying it. I was never asked. But at the same point in time, just, a different way of life, man. Like, I've watched it change so much. I mean, we talk about, I was joking about the pizzerias, but, back then there was a code of conduct, man. Yeah. Like, a pizzeria wouldn't open up 15 miles from another pizzeria, 15 to 30 miles.
Right. And
then I watched to where now you got Pizza Hut now putting up a franchise right across the street, Domino's next to that, Papa John's. And, I watched my man get real disgruntled over years because of it, because it was a big money business back then. Yeah. There was a lot of money to be made. It was a cash business. It was. And, but still to this day, even I joke about, you know what I mean, how it was a form of punishment, which it was. I could still eat pizza every single day. I had it last night. You know what I mean? I can eat it every day, cold, mustard on it. I don't care. I'll eat it.
Yep. I like pizza too.
Yeah.
So when you got out of prison and you decided, was this like a turning point? You said, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to do.
Yep.
So what did you do when you walked out?
Man, when I got out, it was just a matter of, putting my nose to the grindstone. I mean, I already had it envisioned. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could have been fully taken care of just because of, again, the direction we went in there. I mean, just me and my old man did the time. No one got dimed out. Right. And I declined it. I said, I might use you for a favor here and there. I said, but that's it. I said, I'm done. I said, I'm done. So at any rate, I went out, man. I had a job at a pizzeria. I started doing cabinetry, countertops. I still did some security gigs at night, things of that nature, just for extra money. But it was all legit. That was it, man. And I knew it. And I had that vision. I wanted to get into real estate. I wasn't sure because I was a felon if I was able to. But in return, I did get my license. I was inducted into the $1 million. The $1 million Hall of Fame. And I'm like, I only made $13,000 that year. So, I mean, take this plaque, give me the money. You know what I mean? I'm like, so real estate wasn't my gig, but I had one of my transactions, which was about $750,000. Okay. I sold the house. Okay. And people don't realize, everybody thinks 6%. Well, it gets split up between the brokers and the other brokers. It's typically 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. But we were the listing and selling broker, so I was able to get 3%. Okay. Which was a good chunk of change. You know what I mean? I needed it. And so I'll never forget going to lunch to the guy who I gave the mortgage to, because it was an F paper loan, subprime loan. I guess he made a lot of money off of it, because of took me out to lunch, flipped me an envelope. I opened up the envelope. I'm counting the money, you know what I mean? And I'm like, this is more money than I got off my commission off that real estate transaction. He goes, and you earned every penny of it. And I said, okay, so how are you going to teach me what you do? You know what I mean? and I got in the mortgage industry. You know, you didn't have to have a clean record. I still, I mean, to this day, I'm a felon. First degree, you can't get expunged. And it's been decades, you know what I mean? And got in the mortgage industry and made a lot of money, made a ton of money. And, I was living life, man. Things were good. Things were great. And then '07 hit, and that was it. I made it crash. Yeah. I mean, I went from, I'll never forget, I was on the phone and I hung up, and I remember just wishing that the phone would stop ringing. Well, you got to watch what you wish for, because that phone stopped ringing. And like I said, '07 and '08, I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then '09, Peter ran out of money and Paul got pissed. So it was like, what do we do? Yeah. And at the time we got 3 kids, and, Dave was 14 at the time. Daniel, 8 years difference. Madison, I'm just bad with ages, man. My mind doesn't work right. But anyhow, we got 3 kids. Yep. You know what I mean? We got to do something. We got to do something. And my wife turns around and she goes, well, what do you think about Branson? I said, well, what do you think about a second choice? And she goes, Branson. And I'm like, because we've been out here. Right. We had in-laws that moved out here. My brother-in-law had a show out here, Legends. And so I knew of Branson. So I was like, man, it can't be that bad. So let's just, I let the house go. Threw everything in storage. We put enough into a U-Haul so we were able to take our vehicles. I remember getting repo letters, you know what I mean, for the vehicles. And I'm like, come find us. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like literally we just left the house, and they never came for the vehicles. And at any rate, I figured we'd be here for about a year, maybe 2 years tops. Well, November 22nd, month that just passed, celebrated 14 years. Wow. So I created a life, and you couldn't drag me to go back there. Yeah. I'll go back to visit, but I mean, yeah, man, this is home. Yeah, I love Missouri as well. I do, man. The Ozarks is a beautiful area. And I feel safer. Oh, yeah. I feel safer. Everybody has the same thought process when it comes down to, your rights being taken from us and things of that nature. Like, this is a state that would definitely come together. Absolutely. And unite and take on whatever's to come, And I think the people understand that simplicity is happier. Oh, man. You see it. I see it with the people that I work with. Absolutely. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses. Yep. Bottom line, I can shop at Walmart and not feel bad about it. Yep. When I closed my business and I moved back here, I finally experienced what happiness was. Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you guys about an amazing organization that is being built right now. It is called Heroes Voices Media Foundation, and it is an organization that is using media to help veterans express themselves and tell their stories using media, as in podcasting, like the Two Drunk Dudes in a Gunroom show. It is also using music, like Gunroom Radio. And it is also using books like what is coming soon with Warrior Words. So if you would like to help, go check out heroesvoicemediafoundation.org. You can find it at our Facebook page, and you can also find it in the description of this episode. So let's get back to the show. Because even on good weeks and good months and good times, I still wasn't happy. Yep. Yep. And even when you were making money in the trucking industry, you always sat there wondering, well, I wonder what next month's going to be like. Right. Right. There was no security. And so you were always trying to figure out the next hustle, where the next loads are coming from, That's a tough job. It is. I give you guys credit. Now, were you doing a cross country? Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I started out hauling bulk chemicals, and 6 years later, I ended pulling flatbed. So I've hooked up to about every kind of trailer that you can hook up to. Okay. So where did you hate going to the most? Anywhere that looks like your thumb. So if it's north of Washington, D.C., right, I cut it off the map. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people said like New York.
I never went to New York.
Yeah, New Jersey.
I'll go up to upstate New York.
Oh, different.
But New York City?
Oh, yeah.
No.
It's a nightmare.
No.
I mean, I literally lived about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And in 42 years, I can count on one hand how many times I went there.
Yeah.
Just because it's crazy. It is. I mean, driving wise, I don't mind going there if I took, the train or something like that. But driving there, it's a whole different ballgame.
I crossed the GW one time in a semi truck.
Yeah, George Washington.
I'll never do it again.
Yeah, man.
And I had to pay $100 to do it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Ice storms and everything you've been through.
Yeah.
God.
Yep. I would rather go back to Afghanistan with a BB gun than to go to New York City.
That bad.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it is bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you come down to Branson, and did you come down here with the intent to open up a dojo, or
not at all?
No.
Honestly, that was probably the last thing on my mind. It really was, because of, again, at that time, I was only a purple belt.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably the longest white belt in the history of jiu-jitsu. But people don't realize jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is different than all martial arts.
Right.
I mean, first and foremost, if you're not 18 years old, you're not getting a black belt. Bottom line. Somebody tells you I got my black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu at 16, well, you're lying, because you have to be at least 18. You know what I mean? And back then, it was more of merit. If you weren't going 3 times a week, you weren't getting ranked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So coming out here as a purple belt, I still felt as though I had a lot more to learn. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. And moved out here, there was nothing. No jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm like, wow, man. So you talk about a culture shock.
Yeah.
Now, I used to walk 2 minutes and I could be with 20 friends. It would take me 2 hours to hang out with 2 friends here. Like it was a big, and thank God I was 42, because I could calm down a little bit. I got a lot out of my system.
Yep.
But like I said, yeah, just the culture shock alone was a huge difference for me. But coming out here fully blasted, tatted up, man, this is the Bible Belt right here. I mean, Branson probably has more churches per capita than most towns do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was definitely frowned upon, and the finding job was tough. And then when you found one, they wanted me to wear the makeup and everything else, and it just wasn't my style.
Yeah.
Had an ego. What are you telling me? I'm Rick Koenig. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, you're Rick Koenig in Northeast, region, but here you're nobody.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I got to give it a wing. You know what I mean? And I got the full blessing from a gentleman, J.W. Wright, out of St. Louis. He said, I like how you structure your class. I like what you have going on. And if you want to be affiliated under me, he goes, you're more than welcome. And he's a Hoyler Gracie black belt.
Okay.
So I said, he was St. Louis. I was here. So I built an academy over at the YMCA and just kept it growing. You know what I mean? Like I was telling you, work with a group called Mission 22. And, it's where statistically they say 22 vets will commit suicide on a daily basis. And you and I both know that statistic's a lot higher.
Yep.
And what I would do with a lot of my buddies is we would go around the country. We would put on free seminars for our vets, because all we were looking to do is just get them into something that's a lot more positive than the alternative.
Yeah.
And it felt a great way of giving. Like I said, even in my school, if you're a vet, you're not getting charged. Now, I won't pay for your uniform. If I have one, I'll give it to you. You know what I mean? And I've had that learner geese where I could give the vet one. So, like I said, I think this country is waking up a little bit. You would know more than me. But they're starting to realize a little more, hopefully. And, you vets deserve everything. I mean, I think you should have everything for free, honestly. Like the VA loans and things of that nature, man. Like, there's still money involved, and I know you guys battle with the VA, with getting your disability. Like, man, you're 100%. You signed your name on the dotted line for your country. You deserve everything. Bottom line.
Yeah, it took me 3 years to get to 70%.
That's crazy.
The first 20 years of the military, 68 months deployed, and the first rating they gave me was 30, which you get nothing.
Wow, man.
So
that is disgraceful.
And a lot of people they think that you automatically get 2 checks, and look, nothing happens until you reach 50%. So at 30%, the way it works, right? I retired out of the military.
Wow.
So my pay was 50% of what my regular pay was. So because I was 30% disabled, what they did was they have this little gorilla math system that they come up with, right? Then they subtract that amount from your retirement check, okay? And then the government hands that to the VA, and the VA hands that to you, right? So that's tax-free, which lowers how much taxes you have to pay out of your retirement check.
Okay.
And that's what they claim is your disability. So I said, so for the 20 years of service and the all the problems that I have, I save, I get $15 a month. And the lady I was talking to, she goes, well, how do you figure $15 a month? I said, why, do you want that too? I said, all I'm saving is what the tax difference is. I said, so you're telling me the amount that I get is $300 at 30% based off of your math. What is, how much taxes is coming out of $300 a month? Next to nothing. $20, $30 maybe.
That's outrageous.
I said, so for all the damage that's done to me, that's
wow.
And she learned real quick that I did definitely have anger issues, and to this day, she's probably filed a PTSD claim. I definitely gave her some words of encouragement, but
rightfully so, though.
I was pretty upset.
Rightfully so, and you had every right in the world to be. I mean, come on, man, that's ridiculous, man. So again, man, all the respect, brother, all the respect, man.
I appreciate it. So when you build this, and I know you're also working with people for weight, and I think mental health also comes a lot, because I put on a lot of weight as I got more and more depressed. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm just now starting. I mean, I've lost 15, maybe almost 20 pounds since I've this year working on it. But I seen in your video that you've helped fighters get down to the weights that they want to be at.
Oh yeah.
And now you're helping other people.
Yeah. I got involved. Well, like I said, always being active in some way, shape, or form. Like my son, he was an MMA fighter as well. I was always in the game. You know what I mean? Since the 80s. I mean, martial arts my whole life. And so I linked up with a guy named George Lockhart, Marine, and Daniel Leith. And they had a system because that's what he did in the military. He was the dietitian. That's what he went to college for in there. And he had a system that was unbelievable. So I got linked up with him with the hopes that I'd be able to go on the road with him, help with the UFC fighters. Like he did Conor McGregor, like stayed at his house for 2.5, 3 months. And it was good pay.
Yeah.
Never happened. But got a ton of knowledge out of it. But I tell everybody, regardless of everything that I've done, the weights have always been my anchor. Always been my anchor. It's something that is in my daily routine, regardless of what I was doing. I made sure I was doing my push-ups, my pull-ups, my dips, my burpees, something. But again, I fell in love with the weights at an early age of 13.
Okay.
Fell in love with them. So I just seen how it was affecting people more. And again, being in prison, it's mindset. So I started coming up with programs where it's your self-mastery. All right, you're just bettering yourself on a daily basis with giving you non-negotiable daily tasks, something that you have to adhere to. Now, I'm going to give you a blueprint so you can structure this throughout your whole day. So you're chalking up wins from the time you wake up until you go to sleep. Okay. So when you wake up, that's a win. When you go and you work out, that's a win. When you get to eat breakfast, that's a win. So basically, you're chalking up wins. So by the time 12 o'clock rolls around noon, you already chalked up about a dozen wins.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're training your mind. You're a winner. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's all mindset. So we work on that mindset. And again, there's a lot more to it. I have people journal. We do weekly reflections. We work on certain issues that they might have. And then I get them on a macro-based diet, where basically what I'm doing is I'm tracking your calories, all depending on how much weight you're losing or you want to gain. And then we just track your fats, your carbs, and your proteins.
Okay.
And we come up with a system, and we tweak it, we tailor it, we find out what's working and what's not. But again, it's a process. These are people that are with me. These are clients. I mean, I've had clients now with me for 2, 3, 4 years. You know what I mean? And now getting involved with my coach right now, Wes, He's just furthered my knowledge into it, you know. So it's just things are right now steamrolling. You know, I mean, I'm making good money. I'm going to be making better money, but it's not about the money.
Right.
It is not. I mean, hey, I'm not knocking it. I enjoy it. You know what I mean? And I tell people, you know, I might buy things, but they don't own me. I might own them. They don't own me. And I won't allow, I'm happy in my gym living in the back. I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? I don't need anything else. But again, it helps.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, people mean more to me than anything else. You know, I teach with compression. I'm very compassionate, but I'm tough. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if you come to me with some kind of shit that this is what I want, blah, 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 well, you're going to get it. Watch what you ask for. Yep. You know what I mean? Now, if you come to me and you keep it real and say, hey, listen, Rick, I'm going to tell you right now, you know, I'm going to have a couple of beers every single night. I might snack on some Doritos or nachos or this and that. Cool. I'll still work with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you get people that come in here and they just have these expectations of, and I'm on them. I mean, it's like I said, I teach with compression, but I am compassionate on what I do.
Right.
You know, and as time goes on, I'm more compassionate about it because of with myself getting older. It's not about me anymore. It's about them.
Right.
You know, I'm being selfless, not selfish. I could care less about the aesthetics anymore. You know, I'm not going to be on stage in a bikini flexing for a couple hundred people for a trophy.
Right.
I'm getting into people's minds, their bodies, their souls. You know what I mean? I'm just digging in deep to get the best version of themselves on a daily basis and staying to it and making them accountable for it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the transformations that I've seen over my clients over the months and the years are just incredible. So like I said, like as long as I'm changing somebody's life, I think that's what we're all here to do, is to help each other.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
Man.
You know, I can see it too, because when I first went in the military, one of my goals was I wanted to fight all Army boxing. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah. My first fight, I was 132 pounds.
Okay.
You know, 6'1". I mean, if I broke my ribs, you didn't need x-rays.
Right.
You could just look and see. And, you know, my last fight. Yep. My last fight, I was 178 pounds. And I learned real quick that they hit a lot harder at that weight.
Man.
You know?
Yeah, good for you, though. You got punched in the face.
Yeah.
You know, most people out there, I can't tell you how many cops I've trained that have never been in a fight in their life. Man, I'm like, bro, you don't understand.
Reality hits.
And it hits hard.
Yes, it does.
It hits hard. I mean, I had my clock cleaned, man, about a year ago, man. And, man, I remembered the feeling, and I'm like, wow, man, it's been a minute. You know what I mean?
And you know, I will never forget the feelings either. You know, there is no other sport out there. I don't care if it's football. I don't care what it is, that when you're standing there and that referee holds somebody else's hand up, you have nobody else to blame.
That's it.
There's nobody. You can't say that the quarterback did this or the pitcher did this. It was either I didn't train hard enough, I didn't take it serious enough, I didn't do the road time long enough, whatever it is, and you're going to be able to go back through it. You know, I had this one fight, and I'll never forget it. It was the worst feeling of my life. It was my first fight as a light heavyweight. My wife was there. She was recording it. That's the only reason why I know what happened. Right. The last thing I remember was he was in the other corner jumping up and down. He was a cook. And he was jumping up and down yelling over easy.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. And when I watched that videotape, I looked like Glass Joe from Mike Tyson. I hit that turnbuckle and I slid down.
Hey.
And when I came to, the referee was on 8. 9, and he looked at me and he said, walk towards me. And I guess I didn't walk in the right direction. And that was the end of it, man. You know, and that was the worst feeling that you could ever have. Yeah.
But you did it though.
I did. And then, you know, 20 years later, you fast forward and I was in shape. Yeah. I felt good. I liked what I looked at in the mirror. Yeah. If I lost a fight, I trained harder.
That's right.
You know, and then your mental health becomes just as impactful, because as my depression was getting there and I was going deeper, I didn't care.
No.
I started putting on weight. I quit working out, you know. I wasn't interested in healthy things.
You didn't care.
So I didn't.
Yeah.
And then it just compounded because then when I looked in the mirror, I was disgusted.
Yeah.
And so, now I'm paying for that and I'm working through all that and trying to get that stuff fixed.
Yeah.
But now that I'm looking through a different lens.
That's right.
And again, it's not just about the physical side. It's not just about the what you're eating and your habits. It's also about your mental state. What are you thinking about yourself? So the thought process of waking up and having multiple wins throughout the day is important. Absolutely. Because if at the end of the day you're doing everything right, but you still hate yourself,
right,
it ain't going to last. You're not going to sustain it.
It's not. And, it's easier said than done, but at the same point in time, it can be done. Yeah, because absolutely. We're all inherently negative, and that's how that's how shit gets done. Right. Okay, bottom line. But if you can reach that higher level, which is called flow state, and keep you there as much as possible, there's numerous ways, hacks, tricks, whatever you want to call them. But I have systems. And again, I'm just teaching you what worked for me.
Yeah.
And hundreds of others.
Yeah.
That did the same system as me.
Yeah.
So again, it does work. But people just get so down on themselves, man. Yeah. And you're looking at the holiday seasons right now, man. I mean, suicide rates are going to go even higher.
Yeah.
People get depressed this time of year. I mean, it becomes bad. It's either they're getting depressed, off of themselves, going into devices, or they're coming up with New Year's resolutions on how they're going to better themselves.
And sometimes they're realistic and sometimes they're not even realistic.
That's it.
And you have to take it step by step. Step
by step, one day at a time,
yep.
Maybe 1 hour at a time. I mean, like I said, I'm up every morning at 2:30 a.m. We were talking about this. And, there's times, man, my last phone call might be 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But I'm still up at 2:30. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't sleep. But, that's the consequences I pay for what I do and what I love.
Right.
And I'm willing to risk it, man. And what? So I don't get a day's worth of sleep? How many times were you out in the field that you weren't allowed to sleep?
Yeah. Or you were afraid to sleep?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I could sit here and cry about poor Ricky didn't sleep for a day. You know what? Fuck yourself, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I say, they turn around and they say, well, science says that you need at least 8 hours of sleep. I said, you know what? Science says you're a bitch.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Man the hell up. You don't. It's all a mindset,
yep.
What you need. And how are you going to produce the next day? I mean,
yeah.
I come out here sometimes, my dick's in the dirt, man, and I got to dig it out.
Yeah.
It's time for me to I got to rock and roll. I got to lead from the front. Yep. I got people that are looking at me. They're looking for my weakness for their way out. Yeah. And I'm not going to give it to them.
Yep.
Bottom line. And, this goes out to all you parents as well. I mean, even if you're a great parent, realize they are not going to do as you tell them to do. They're going to do as you do.
Yep.
So if you're going to sit on that couch and you're going to drink a 6-pack or some soda and eat the snacks, and you're telling them to go out and play baseball, basketball, whatever, they're going to be like, well, Dad, you're on the couch. You're like, you're my idol.
Yeah.
I want to do what you do. You eat 3 Big Macs a day. I want to eat 3 Big Macs a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a form of child abuse, man. You got to put your kid on a system, but you got to lead from the front.
Yep.
And you got to do. You know what I mean? Because ultimately it happens. Us growing up in the 70s, 60s, 70s, even some of the 80s, we only knew how to do what we had to do. That was it. And everybody says, if you had to rate yourself as a father, how would you rate yourself? I said, man, I thought I was doing the best I could. You know what I mean? Could I have done better? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could I have done worse? Absolutely. I just did the best that I knew how to do. Yeah. That's all. And again, man, but if it's positive things, it's going to revolve on the kids. And I see this through a lot of my clients. I allow them to bring their kids in here, man, and they love it. And they're just creating great habits for them.
Yeah.
Because, a boredom turns into addictions turn into habits, and then the habits turns into a disaster.
Yep. So
it's, you have the choice that you can make that on a daily basis. Why not make the right choice?
I agree 100%. Yeah. And it's just like, one of the reasons why our military is so great is because we lead from the front.
Lead from the front.
Everybody asks you, what is the definition of a soldier? It's the direct reflection of its leadership.
I love it.
That's exactly what it is. And it can be played into the kid. Your kid is going to be the direct reflection of the leadership. Who is leading that child. And just like you said, they're going to do what they see.
They're going to do what they say, and they always do.
And even if you know it's wrong, and you're telling them, don't do what I do, do what I say do.
Yep.
They're just going to resent you for it.
Absolutely. No, and again, a lot of us say, don't learn from my mistakes. No, everybody's going to learn from their own. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. They got to figure it out on their own. You can just give them the right advice. But if you're doing the right things and you're leading in the front, at least you're giving that basis, that guideline, that ground foundation of something good to work on opposed to something bad to work on.
Absolutely.
And that means so much, man, because these kids these days are just so freaking confused. They really are. And it's just, how it is with the TVs, you know what I mean? Anything that you see, they're confusing them. They really are. I mean, the media itself is horrible. I can't even watch the news.
I was just talking about this on a podcast yesterday, but I literally had a soldier tell our company commander the reason why he joined the Army was for Call of Duty. He thought it was like the video game Call of Duty.
Wow.
So no, you were absolutely right.
Wow.
And he was astonished that it was not just like that.
Yeah. Crazy. You know what I mean? They actually get that response, man. Yeah. Wow. That's the first, man.
That was right close to my retirement. I said, man, times are changing.
How long have you been retired now?
I retired in 2014.
Wow, man, that was not long ago, bro. No. Not that long ago.
I came in 94. Me and my wife got married right out of high school, joined the military in 94, and I retired in 2014.
My man.
I said, man, these kids are changing. I got to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Made the right decision.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially how everything's kind of taking a turn, too, man.
I feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
This stuff that's going on over there now. And
it's horrible.
If anybody goes to my website that wants to be on the show, there's a few rules. And if they look on the website, one of the rules is I don't get into politics unless we're talking about politics that bleeds into taking care of the soldiers. Then I'll discuss that. Anything else, it's not that I don't think it's important. It's that I just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So
it's not part of your show, man.
Nope. And so there's that. And I don't produce, products. If you can't share the product with me, let me verify that it's not a scam and some bullshit because I've been duped already.
Isn't that crazy, man? I don't get people, man.
I don't promote stuff for the money.
No.
And it's about taking care of the listeners.
It is. I mean, money helps, but again, if we're helping others, that comes back to you tenfold.
I agree.
You know what I mean? God will take care of you. And again, you're going to have good karma or bad karma.
I'm a believer.
And karma debt is, it's just paying off something that you did. It could be a simple argument with your significant other.
Yep.
What you give in, what you give out, you're going to get back in return. And it could be just when you leave, you're leaving in a shitty mood.
Yep.
And you're thinking about it. And it's plaguing you because you knew you said some things that you shouldn't have said. Well, you're paying off that karma debt. Like, instead of saying, you know what, let's just give each other a hug, a kiss goodbye. We'll talk about it later. Yep. End it, man. Leave on a happy note because you might not come back.
Yeah, let me tell you, I'm paying that debt now.
So am I, my friend.
Yeah. So
little by little, man, we're changing the world, though.
Yeah.
Things like this right here, again, even if this interview right here changes one life, that's what it was all about, man.
Yep. I agree.
Giving out the knowledge that they needed. And I know this material right here, you got a good view over here. You have a good people that watch. This is definitely going to be changing lives, man.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Well, Rick, what's the best way if somebody wanted to become a client or they wanted to reach you? I got the website that's down here, but is there another way that you want people to reach out to you?
StrengthCertified.com. Like I said, that's just going to give you my platform on some bases. What you do, you click the link, and then it's 30 minutes. It could be 40 minutes. It could be an hour. It could be 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Let's just see what you're going through.
Yep.
It's not costing you a dime. I love talking to people.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Me too.
I'll even tell you, you don't even need this, even though everybody does. Okay. And again, I work with them when it comes down to money and things of that nature because it's not about the money. If they want to find me on Facebook, it's Rick, R-I-C-K, Koenig, Koenig. Same thing for Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel, which is Strength Certified. So that's certified spelled with an S. And I got a lot of content on there. I was showing you what we had with
Yep.
Veterans Week here, man, which was amazing.
It looked like a lot of fun. I'll be here next year.
First 2 weeks of November, we had over 20,000 vets.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in Ballparks of America, you know, they donate the food, so a vet won't have to pay for a meal. They won't pay for a show. I mean, Branson takes care of our vets. And I said more towns and more cities need to adapt that same principle, because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here. And more people need to wake the F up and realize that, get their head out of the ass. And guess what? You see a vet, you shake that man's hand, and you thank him for serving your country.
I appreciate that, Rick. I wish more people listen, because I agree. I agree.
Man, I'm a firm believer on that, bro. Firm.
Me too. Well, guys, I hope everybody enjoys the show. We will make sure that all of Rick's links and ways for you guys to connect with him is going to be in the descriptions of every platform. So wherever you see this, whether it's a short, a reel, or the video, wherever, Spotify, you'll find all of his links. You'll be able to reach out. I had a great time, Rick. I appreciate it.
Bro, man, you're awesome. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Well, you guys take care. Be safe. And as always, man, we'll see you next time.